Good morning, guys. I hope everybody's doing well. Thank you for being so patient. Hello to Skyby50. Hi, Above and Beyond Ancestor Readings. Willow, good to see you. And Four Flying Doves, thanks so much for being here. So today we're going to go over the posts that stopped the day that Bryan Kohberger was arrested. Now, this is no Papa Roger, so don't automatically dismiss it right out of the gate. I am positive, have zero doubt anymore. This was 100% Bryan Kohberger. The details that have come out since the crime scene photos and different media releases and stuff, it's just, it has to be him. Oh, good. Willow says, new documents out too, hon. That's wonderful news. Great. I'll have to go through them a little bit later. Or, hey, let me just put a plug here for Willow. She does awesome with going over these new documents as they come out. She's one of my favorite resources. She has a legal background, so she understands the legal system inside and out. I recommend going to her channel if you have any questions about this case in general. She's so knowledgeable. Good to see you, Mar R. Thank you so much for being here. Plant Lady, hi. Hi, Donna B. Hello to Criminal Med. Guys, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Okay, so let's go ahead and begin at the beginning. Let me give you a little background here. So on November 22nd, let me get this out. Okay. On November 22nd, this person, this Reddit user made an account on Reddit. They went by userdark145. Now, to some people, this is not new news, but what is new news is that we can 100% say that this was him now. All the facts align. On his Reddit page, under the user dark, it stated that his birthday was November 22nd, which equals 11/22, which equals the house number, right, where the murders happened. Now, around the same exact time, if you've been with me for a little while, you know that very early on, there were two sets of coordinates that were released on, it was on 4chan. Now, if you know anything about 4chan, that's a place where a lot of incels gather. So it would not surprise me if Bryan was on there, but was wiping his footprint from being on there. But there were two sets of coordinates, and this was at a time, this is like November, I think it was, one of the coordinates was like from November 19th and one was from November 20th. They were two sets of coordinates where I believe he had buried things. When I mapped these coordinates out, they seem to be very close proximity to each other. And it could be a very close, like 5 to 6 feet, actually, that he's got these things individually buried. This information, it's frustrating because it's been dismissed so much. But I know that it's relevant. I know it matters. I've been trying to get somebody out there to look for it for a really long time. So if you're interested in doing that, contact me. I'll give you the information I have, and we'll go from there. Now, there's another thing that totally aligns with being Bryan. What I'm trying to say is he was in our hair, guys. We were tracking this stuff on YouTube, and he was probably watching our live streams. He was in that discussion forum on Facebook. He was on 4chan. I'm going to say that with a certainty because of him now being for sure this inside looking character. He was all up in it. I'll put it that way. Now, let me show you Inside Looking's profile, okay? Take a look at that face. Okay, so we know that's Bryan, right? Well, this is the person's face that was Inside Looking. Now look closely at the bump on that schnoz. It's perfectly aligned with that bump. Isn't it something? This has long been dismissed by so many. People say, oh, it's like the Papa Roger thing. No. This was him. This was 100% him. All right, let's start going over it. Let me see. What did Mar say? Oh, yes. Thank you, Mar. Another post that was made on 4chan that's also been dismissed is I'll be in shithole, Pennsylvania. Excuse my French if you have kids watching. I'm sorry. I'll be in shithole, Pennsylvania. That's him. Yeah, it was him the whole time. And it's so frustrating. Oh, that reminds me, I got to show you one more thing. And that is, do you guys remember the posts about the gnomes? He would show pictures of gnomes. Real quick, Willow says, I feel like there's a lot of connections for him with numbers. 100%. 100%. So connection to gnomes. Remember, there was this riddle. Hopefully you guys can see that. It says here, it says flowers, leaves, and butterflies. Here's a sight to soothe your eyes. A mini forest outside your home. You might even find a gnome. Well, that's one of the sets of coordinates that has long been dismissed. Well, let me show you what the lovely Dr. Jamie Vona sent me on Twitter. This is a while back. In his parents' basement, you wouldn't believe what was there. Little gnomes. Little gnomes. The dude had gnomes. All of this was a riddle. I'm telling you things from my first videos, things about the U.S. Post Office that were being overlooked by law enforcement, that I believe he actually sent something physically in the mail to one of the victims, probably Kaylee's family, because I've heard about that one. Also, there was something sent to the sorority that recently came out. In one of the posts, he states that post office, that letter that was sent was valid, that there was more there than anybody was thinking. Now, you can also trail that back, if you've been with my channel for a while, that I found a map of things that were important. And I believe this was 100% what Bryan put out there. And it said that the U.S. Post Office was very important to this case. You guys remember what I'm talking about? It was all him. The whole time he was under our nose. And then it's really upsetting when you hear these so-called experts dismiss stuff. And then you hear law enforcement. It's, first of all, I feel like so much of the information is being held back from us. And I'm not so sure. I can't figure out why. He's confessed. He's pled out. Why isn't this information just freely being given away? I feel like they've tried to minimize his searches, minimize his association and how he connected mentally with these serial killers and things. It's so much deeper than they're telling us. And I've told you guys before, we go back in time and study the different 4chan posts. The things I was seeing were the most evil things I've ever seen in my whole life. Not even kidding. There was an obsession with stabbing, blood on the wall. I believe all that stuff is, if we did see those crime scene photos, which I have no interest in seeing, I think it would be 100% it would look just like what I was seeing in the 4chan. There was an obsession here. Lauren, I don't remember a single thing about the post office. Well, in these posts, we'll get to it. And if somebody in here remembers what I'm talking about, let me know. I know I'm not alone here. There's pertinence. In fact, I think it was a December 3rd or 4th interview with Kaylee's mom and dad, Steve and Christy Goncalves. They talked about something that was sent to their home, some letter, some package, something, and that the FBI was rifling through it because it was important. Again, it was like weeks before that something U.S. Postal Service related was pertinent to the case. He was trying to make this like a little bit of BTK, a little bit of Ted Bundy, a little bit of Night Stalker. It was like this amalgamation of different serial killers. And then he was doing his own individual spin. Not that original, you know? It's just not that original. Yeah, Lauren was on all this before he was. I really was. I can say that with certainty. Though none of the information I ever put out was anything important to anybody else. But man, I know it was. Nowadays, it has everything to do with him. The crappy thing is, though, he was really good at deleting his track, it sounds like. And so he would wipe his history. The experts had a really hard time figuring out exactly, you know, how deep it went. Now, they did say that his P interest was really pretty evil. It was gagged women and in certain compromising positions. He had a very big fixation with certain types of very foul, non not an unusual type of pee. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to share this clip now with you. Hope you guys can hear. Okay.
Different threads, but like one was specifically
okay, hold on.
Here notes trying to appeal it and was saying,
can you guys hear?
I won't have health insurance, I don't have money for tuition. So this getting fired from the TA position was going to be a big deal, that he wasn't going to be able to return for school.
What I'm playing for you guys, this is an important clip where the Celebrate experts that came on the scene at the time when it was really important to go through all of Bryan's online stuff, his computer stuff. This husband-wife combo, their names, last name Barnhart, they went through his texts, his calls, his searches, everything. And this is what they had to say about his Reddit stuff. So they get into it right about now.
The only other email I think that really stood out was the Reddit officially suspending his account on the 30th for violating their rules. But it was the day of his arrest. It was like the news popped and Reddit were like, let's go find this guy, and basically.
You think that's what it was?
That's what it seemed. It was the 30th. So he posted something that I didn't see.
Either that or something that Con's channel.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I'm not sure, but there's an email from Reddit saying this account is suspended.
I'm still so curious.
This now perfectly aligns because everybody figured that was not Bryan because the Reddit user suddenly went silent, right? Well, the truth is the account was suspended or stopped altogether, and it was just because he was violating terms of service, probably for shouting his mouth off and being rude to other commenters, which you guys will see in this series of posts and his interaction with people, that he was pretty rude at times. Let's see, what else does this say?
Yes, if he was like actively, there was that whole Papa Roger thing. I don't know if you guys heard about that the police said was.
We didn't find anything on Papa Roger, but also he cleaned up well. And on an Android, if you want to delete an app or delete social media, you can leave the app installed and erase all user data. And that's super easy to do. And it seems like that's what he had done. But again, the investigators can get search warrants and go to Instagram and Reddit and Facebook and get warrant return data that Jared and I didn't have access to. We weren't asked to look at that.
Yeah. Well, Jared, Heather, thank you both.
Notes.
Okay.
Trying to appeal it.
All right, guys, let's get into these posts. Okay, let's see. I think it's this. There we go. I hope everybody can see. Can you guys see okay? Hey, Tom Webster. It's great to see you. Hi, wasn't a Reddit profile confirmed not to be BK? Papa Rogers or something. Yeah, Papa Rogers is not, but this inside looking, 1,000%, I believe it was him. Yeah, you'll see as we go through it. Some of the stuff I think he tried to sidestep or misdirect a bit, but most of it is actually like 99.99% of it is 100% verifiable now that we have the crime scene photos and stuff. It's crazy. Sweetie Pilo is just repeating nonsense from the mainstream. No, this has never been on the mainstream media. That's why I'm sharing it with you. It hasn't been shared on News Nation. Hasn't been shared on any of these experts channel. Like this is not talked about. That's why I'm sharing it today, because it's important. And if you want Bryan in his own words, this is the closest you're going to get to it until he gives a full-on interview. I promise you. Swear to God. It's really serious. Okay. Let's get into the posts. So in the Chief of Police James Fry thanking public for recent tips, I guess it would be thread. He wrote, this was his first post that they have that he actually responded to. Let me make sure I zoom in so you guys see well. Hold on. Good. Or just, so he states, or just slowing down and on updating the public with the same info all the time. Next post, on the house being turned over to the owner section. He says, yeah, it goes back to the owner. In the general discussion thread, December 27, 2022, again, this is all before the arrest happens. There is nothing post-arrest at all because he was locked up. Says, look at the killer's route, excitedly. On the 12/28/2022 daily discussion, he states, blood runs down from Xana and Ethan's room, not the stairs. So we know now from the pics, it never was running down the stairs. It was just running down the outside wall. Okay. Does the killer likely live in the neighborhood? It says, you mean 0% chance. In the Moscow police reports, November 3rd through 13th, he states, wow, you got him. States that again. Does the killer likely live in the neighborhood? Killer didn't walk there, in my opinion. And here he has a map. Here's what he states happened, guys. You ready for it? Killer enters sliding door and exits sliding door. If Kaylee, Maddie were targets, the path doesn't cross Xana, Ethan. If Xana, Ethan were targets, the path doesn't cross Kaylee, Maddie. Ethan and Kaylee did not reside at the home. I don't want to lose this. Hold on. Okay. Therefore, Xana and Maddie must have been targets. Saying those are who he went in there to kill. He's stating here, not ex-military, in my opinion. No, they were at Sigma Chi. He's referring to Ethan and Xana. Just a minute. I don't know why I can't zoom out of here better. Okay, there. Good. All right. Next post. Kaylee was not target, in my opinion. Xana, Maddie were targets. Look at the killer's route inside the home. Kaylee being target doesn't make any sense. Then in the do you think the killer is among us, enjoying the fact that no one has a clue what happened? In that section, he writes, being on the run is not fun. Now, what you're going to notice is through these different exchanges, in that time frame when he goes on that trip with his dad cross country, he completely goes dark on this Reddit thing. And then he states that he was sick at that time. It's so convenient. Okay. On the 12/27/2022 daily discussion mega thread, he says, Xana and Maddie were targets, in my opinion. So he stays true to that. It was Xana and Maddie. It was never Kaylee and Maddie. It was never the other two. It was Xana and Maddie, period. And then that's just a picture. I'm not sure. Can we talk about the one of the guys in the video? I don't know what that's all about. Now, there is something interesting that you can do if you're very interested in these. If you put in the title of the thread that I cite right here, you can go back in time and read what other replies he wrote. How you will be able to identify that it was him is it will, as the username, it'll say deleted. That's how you'll know that these were him, more than likely, from my experience. Okay, general discussion thread, December 27, 2022. Again, this is before the arrest. Not sure, maybe kept in Kaylee's room. They're talking about the dog. Where's the dog? Well, if you've seen the pictures, you know that Murphy is found in Kaylee's room. It's unbelievable. I mean, how is this guy so accurate, right? And this is so early on if you think about it. Okay, in the theories thread 4.0 section, he states killer went to Xana and Ethan's room, then Maddie and Kaylee's room, in my opinion. Now, recently, Gray Hughes came out. I guess he had been studying a lot of the blood spatter. This is what I've heard from a subscriber that reached out to me. And based on the blood information that he could see, the blood spatter information, he has basically figured out that it was first Xana and Ethan who were killed, and then it was Maddie, and then Kaylee. So this is the exact order also that Inside Looking is saying. I believe that. And it goes against what the state has said, but I 100% think that this is right on. And someday maybe it'll be proven. I don't know. Maybe when Bryan tells the truth about the crimes, we'll know. Okay, general discussion thread, December 27, 2022. It says, in my opinion, look at the map and killer's movements. Why would the killer leave 2 people alive at the scene? Movement was intentional. Bryan in his own words. The kitchen was the entry point. So if Maddie Kaylee was the target, the killer's route would be kitchen and stairs. That path does not cross with Xana and Ethan. If Xana and Ethan were the targets, the killer's route would be kitchen and living room. The path does not cross with Maddie Kaylee. These were not just good guesses, I assure you. Oh, and there's another thing I should tell you. So on the page on the Reddit page where it shows the picture of him and it shows user dark 145 is the name, and then inside looking, it has the birth date as November 22nd. Well, Bryan's actual birthday is November 21st. So it was 1 day off from that. And I think that he wrote his birthday was November 22nd just because it lined right up with 11/22. All right, that path does not cross. That path does not cross. Okay. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Xana, Maddie were the targets. So he keeps insisting Xana, Maddie were the targets. In my opinion, look at the map and killer's movements. Why would the killer leave 2 people alive at the scene? This is kind of redundant. Movement was intentional. The kitchen was the entry point. So if Maddie Kaylee was the target, the killer's route would be kitchen and stairs. The path does not cross with Xana Ethan. If Xana and Ethan were the targets, the killer's route would be kitchen and living room. The path does not cross with Maddie Kaylee. In my opinion, look at the map and killer's movements. Okay, he states that again. Xana and Maddie, in my opinion, again, saying it again. He's trying to get people's attention. Remember, it's in his personality type to want you to know that he knows what he's talking about, that he is the smartest person in the room. And here you can see that coming out with his insistence that no, this is what it is. It was Xana and Maddie. They were the targets. He's trying to say it, and nobody in Reddit is listening to him. However, I guess a lot of people did report him as being very suspicious. He was kind of pushy with people and very difficult to get along with, which also sounds like his personality from what we're hearing. Okay, then it states, let's see, Xana and Maddie were the targets. Again, he says it. Killer went Xana, Ethan room, then Maddie Kaylee room. Saying it again. Okay, exactly. Crime scene was also expanded to the parking lot and not to Walenta. Then in the confused about, Kaylee had a stalker angle. He says her parents can't get closure without the why, in my opinion. You know, I wonder if he's ever going to contact them and tell them. Or if he will do some sort of a full-on interview and talk about the murders. I kind of think he will. And I don't want to get too far off of the point here, but it was so discouraging when Bill Thompson didn't try to at least get the confession out of him, because there's too many doors and windows left open here for a lot of people on YouTube to insist that, no, it was framed, it was somebody else, it was 10 people, it was 15 people, whatever they're going to say. When Bryan, I mean, he stated that he is the one who killed these students. He's now in prison for it. But yet so many people don't want to believe it. So I think had Bill Thompson required that for the plea deal, he has to tell his story, right? I think it could have been better, ultimately. All right. Again, he states, killer went to Xana Ethan room and then Maddie and Kaylee's room, in my opinion. On the 1226 daily discussion mega thread, it says, I put in there, in my opinion. Okay. Next one, actually, this route is correct and the most logical, in my opinion. Okay, here he says, no, killer was outside before murders, in my opinion, which he probably was for a moment. Okay, here we go. It says, likely, Xana and Maddie were targets, same work, same sorority, same house, same majors, different floors. Okay, killer went Xana Ethan room, again stating the same thing over and over. So the order, I think the fact that News Nation got the order wrong probably really upsets him. He wants it to be known that they've got it all wrong. Even the state has it wrong, I think. Here it says, no, two vastly different personas. And I don't know what that's in. Again, we can always look this thread up to see more of the posts. If you're very interested in it, go do that because you'll find more info. But I just want to kind of go through the important details here. In the 1226 daily discussion, here's what he says. So it's probably somebody, asking about the murders. And then he says, write them a letter and find out. Then he states, Jack DeCour's cleared. Then he states, Ethan Chapin is not in the hallway, in my opinion, when everybody was insisting he was. Again, Jack DeCour cleared. Then he says, wrong. Killer went to Xana Ethan room, then Maddie Kaylee room, in my opinion. Then he states, here's another, this is everything we know now. Wrong. Killer was in parking lot behind house and drove off from there, in my opinion. Then he states they were in their rooms, in my opinion. Everybody was in their rooms. We can now say that Kaylee was probably in her bed when the disturbance happened and she got up to see what was going on because her bed was partially undone. So it's interesting that she ends up in bed with Maddie. And I think it's just like how Donna described it, like threw her in there and then the crazy stuff began. All right. What if there was SA attempt? He says, I don't know what you said because I never responded to you. So that doesn't pertain, but okay. JD, Jack DeCour's family speaks out. Yes, that's what I mean. He says, what if this was a SA attempt? Ellie states, no SA, stick to facts. No SA, end of story. So in the thread where it says question regarding the fixed blade, he says killer went to Xana Ethan room and then Maddie Kaylee room. It's like beating a dead horse here, So Kaylee was likely the last victim. He's saying Kaylee was it. She was the final one. And remember, he did something quite different to Kaylee than he did to the rest of them. If you've heard from Stephen Goncalves, he talks about that. All right. Then in the extent of the stab wounds theory, he says, yeah, it's not the movies. JD, Jack DeCour family speaks out article. Bryan says he dodged a bullet, in my opinion. It sounds like he's kind of criticizing Kaylee right there, saying that by Kaylee dying, that Jack DeCour dodged a bullet by not marrying her. That's what I suspect anyway. Let me know if you think something different. Then he states when the whole world thought that Jack DeCour had done this, he says here, JD, Jack DeCour, is cleared. He has nothing to do with it. Okay, theories thread 4.0, he says, killer went to Ethan Xana room first. He says it again. And did the killer find Xana's bedroom by accident? He says, that's what Ellie is trying to figure out. Did they find the white Hyundai Elantra? He says, no. In the 300-mile corridor, he says, that's the section, by the way. He says, go drive out there and look for everyone. And then in the section, why did police initially believe the murders were targeted? He says they didn't have a suspect at the time. Did the killer find Xana's bedroom by accident thread? He says killer went straight to Xana's room. It was not by accident. Then he says, is the killer somebody wrote the section, I'm sorry. Is the killer on these boards? ? And he writes speculation. They are on one of them 100%. And he says it 2 times. In the multiple suspects for multiple victims ? Section, he says speculation, 1 killer. At the time, a lot of people thought that this was multiple killers. And he's saying right out of the gate, no, this is 1 killer. Okay, home security tips section. He says, just put a yard sign out that says you're a gun owner, most effective way. Well, thanks for the advice, Bryan. Okay, in the general discussion thread, December 19, 2022 section, he says speculation, bodies were inside rooms. Now, do you guys remember when News Nation came out with the information that I think it was that Xana was outside of the bedroom. She was found outside of the bedroom. Like it was honestly a lot of BS information. We can now say it's BS. Well, he's saying here at a time when most people really just didn't even know what was going on. Like nobody knew. He says, no, the bodies were inside of the rooms, which they were, right? We have Xana, who was found on the floor. She was in her underwear and I believe a sweatshirt. And Ethan was on the bed. I'm not sure what he was wearing, if anything. I kind of think he wasn't wearing much. It's right on. Bodies were inside the rooms. Same with Kaylee and Maddie. They were found inside of the room. Okay, in the opinions of users section for the sliding door, he says, look at my first comment. I edited it so you got the info. Here it is, guys. You've seen this now in the crime scene pictures. Okay, he says it was left open. So we did not know that that door was left open. Now we heard about the door downstairs that it was found open like at 8 or so in the morning, but we never knew that the sliding glass door was left open. And here he's saying it was left open. It should be convincing by the pictures as they took part of the outside handle for evidence, but not the inside. Also, ISP Snell confirmed it was the sliding glass door for entry. Now, if I zoom, I'm going to try to without, hold on. Let me see, can I zoom? I don't believe in this post that he's showing, they're talking. Oh God, I just can't read this. I've read it before, but I can't, my eyesight has gotten so much worse since I last read this. Hang on. Anyway, it basically doesn't state anything about the door being left open. ISP spokesperson Aaron Snell told me this afternoon, it was believed that the potential suspect came through the sliding glass door, but again, these appeared to be there appeared to be no signs of forced entry. So there was nothing about leaving the door open. But this person was informing people the door was left open. Pretty interesting, isn't it? Okay. Next post, he said, so killing order, again, he gets to it. It's the route. I don't know the target. So here he's acting like he doesn't know the targets. He does that a little bit, but he mostly lets you know that he knows exactly what he's talking about. In the general discussion thread, weekend of December 17, 2022, he says, investigators' movement in the home. They retraced the killer's past, started kitchen, then Ethan Xana room, and then Maddie Kaylee room. Then here in the Kaylee Goncalves' father told Fox News that they had recently released surveillance video, said just two girls having a good time, asking about their bartender. It was pretty clear this individual was not part of the investigation as far as a suspect. In that section, he states, don't bite the hand that feeds, you get nothing. Wow. Then he says, I'm 100% confident this is the route the killer took. Then he says, feel free to PM me, which he did. He did carry on some conversations with people. Later on, after this live stream, you should look up Inside Looking conversations with different people, and you'll see he was very adamant, again, about the order, that Ethan was not found outside of the room, that there was no blood on the stairs. He was adamant the whole way through. I can't get over how this hasn't been discussed by mainstream media lately at all. Inside Looking, speculation, killer went to kitchen, then Ethan Xana room, then Maddie Kaylee room. Says it again. In the general discussion thread, weekend of December 17, 2022 section, he says speculation, killer went to Ethan Xana room, then Maddie Kaylee room. Just keep saying it. Fox interview with Kaylee Goncalves' dad and lawyer. I don't think this has been posted. It's that section. He says speculation. He didn't specify it was HG. Who is HG? Oh, was that Hunter? Hold on. Who is HG? He was referring to a person on the cleared list. He never named them. Guys, do you remember who HG is? I'm drawing a blank. I don't remember. Okay, we'll just keep going. But guys, while you're in here, could you please do me a favor? Hit the like button to help this circulate so people hear this information. This is the closest we might ever get to knowing the story of what happened inside of that house, because we're not hearing from Bryan nowadays, right? But it's crazy to believe he was in these threads freely talking about the murders. Unbelievable. So again, I don't know who HG is. Let me know who that is if you guys remember. Okay, next thing, News Nation video. What are your thoughts on this? We'll remove if inappropriate. It's that section. He says, speculation, entered sliding door. The killer was not waiting in the home. Then when they're talking about the car in question, a 2011 white Hyundai Elantra GLS that was purchased earlier this year in Washington is for sale in Idaho. It was that section. He says, how much they selling it for? Miles? Any issues? Like he was interested or something. Wild. Okay, in the section, how will this go down? Will they announce a suspect, or will we first hear or be a full-blown arrest? I don't know. I can't really tell what that's trying to say. Or will there, or will there first be a full-on arrest? In that section, he says, speculation. They'll find the car first, suspect will be announced, and then the manhunt begins. I honestly think, now that it's been a while and I've had enough time to reflect on it, I think he wanted a big manhunt. He wanted, in my opinion, he wanted the Bryan Laundrie, Myakkahatchee Reserve manhunt, where he's out on the loose and they're trying to track him down and figure out where he went. So his name is plastered on every, news channel, every newspaper, every cover of, any internet search. He wanted his name known, in my opinion. He wanted that manhunt. Okay, in the Brian Enton Explores Idaho Killer's Possible Escape Routes, Banfield section, he says, speculation. One is a registered sex offender and the other is a violent offender. All I'm saying is that the killer was not a registered SO. So he's referring to some other story, I think. Then he's saying, all I'm saying is the killer was not a registered SO. I would bet all my chips on that. And he's not. He's not a registered SA offender. Okay, here he's stating that behind this officer, something very important happened there. Now, it's believed that when he took off very quickly, and maybe there were some skid marks, and it kind of looks like there is right there. And he says, speculation, yes. So maybe he's just, they're talking about the skid marks, and he's saying, yes, there's skid marks. That's what I think it is anyway. In the section, Bryan Enton Explores Idaho Killer's Possible Escape Routes, speculation, it was not an SO, he says again. It was not an S offender. In the could someone who was angry have hired someone to kill section, he says speculation, this was not the case. Then he says speculation, this is not a thrill kill in the random thrill kill example section. In the Bryan Enton Explores Idaho Killer's Possible Escape Routes Banfield section, he says speculation, reeks of violent offender behavior, not SO. In the general discussion thread, December 15, 2022 section, he says, I was mistaken by your post. Then he says, yeah, you're right. You said that. I'm all right now. I've been suffering confusion. I'll come back to this later. Do you notice the date right there, guys? That's December 15th. That is when he was en route from from Washington to his family's house in Pennsylvania. So he was not involved in the thread much at that time. And so he's saying, I'm suffering confusion. I'll come back to this later. So he hadn't been on. All right. What section is this? Okay, I'm not sure what section this is. It could still be in the general discussion thread. He says, no markers on their footprint. Then he says, don't see markers marking their footprints. All right. In the alternatives as to why the Elantra is important discussion section, he says, speculation. Elantra is connected. LE knew and searched for this car since day one. Owner has not come forward. Anonymous reports of white car being perp immediately following the homicides. Okay. In the general discussion thread, December 15, 2022, Let's see. Speculation, definitely 1, maybe 6. Who knows? Speculation, to clarify, when I say known, it could be small interaction to best friends. So the question I think being asked is, well, why did this person target this group? Or how did the perpetrator know them? Maybe that's what's probably being asked. He says, to speculation, to clarify, when I say known, it could be small interaction to best friends. So I believe he absolutely saw them at Mad Greek. There was something that happened in the mix of it. Could have been with the friends. It could have been online on Instagram, and maybe he started following them. It's something like that. Then he took, screenshots of the shoes or the covers over the shoes. And then he says, see their shoes. And that just a theory, but perhaps the killer parked far away to avoid any possible connection. He says, speculation, no way. The perp of a quadruple homicide wants a quick getaway. In the timing of car on home camera footage compared to time of murders section, he says, why waste an hour to see lights go out when you can pull up and lights are already out? General discussion thread, December 15, 2022. Yeah, I've been bombarded with messages accusing me that I'm the killer. People telling me that they're going to tip me in and people asking me for personal information. It's a bit comical, but I'm trying to be clear as possible that I am not the killer. He says, speculation, targeted and known to victims. Idaho murders, white car spotted in footage obtained by police 1 day after killings section. He says, thank you for the acknowledgement. I still believe that's the case, and I guess we'll find out eventually. So again, he's closing in on this space just behind the officer. It looks like that's where skid marks were. And then he says here, speculation, look to the left of that red line. Follow the skid marks. It looks as if the car jumped that corner and corrected it where the officer stands. Then he says, speculation, S on heel of shoe print. So if you guys have seen recently in the crime scene photos, there is like a shoe/boot print, clear as day in that snow. And I think there might be a picture of it here too. All right. Toxicology findings aren't relevant to the case, says coroner section. He says, speculation, because they were attacked with a knife when they were sleeping. General discussion thread, December 15, 2022. I took a week off. Now I'm back. Also got slapped with a temporary ban from Idaho murders. Okay, Ethan, in the Ethan and Xana timeline section, he says, yeah, frat and home. That's it. I think they were talking about, where were Ethan and Xana that night? He's saying, yeah, frat and home. That's it. Again, closing in on this. Let me see if you guys can see that. There are most certainly some skid marks there, which we know that was all part of the route that he took. Speculation, tire marks from the killer's car when they fled the scene from behind the house. God, that's exactly where he was, behind the house. Crazy. Okay, next post, expanded crime. So he's showing a photo of the Fox News footage from behind the house. He says, expanded crime scene behind the house where footprints came from. Speculation, this is where killer parked. Well, gee, is he a psychic? Because he sure knew all the answers, didn't he? All the answers. What do you guys think? Pretty convincing, right? The most important facts that we know about this case, he had an answer for everything. And it all happened to be right? And we're not going to call this him? This is Bryan, man. This is Bryan Kohberger as Inside Looking, going back as early as November 22nd. It's crazy. All right, back to the posts. Expanded crime scene behind the house where footprints came from. Speculation, this is where killer parked. Most certainly. Then he zeroes in on that front door, or the sliding glass door. Speculation, outside handle removed for DNA evidence. Door was left open. There it is again. Door was left open, so killer didn't touch inside handle. Again, we knew that the very front door was left open, supposedly that morning, because people had seen it like at 8 a.m. that it was open. We had never heard that the sliding glass door was left open. This user that I believe is Bryan Kohberger, somehow knew that way back then, just like about 4 weeks in. Speculation, killer's shoe print from behind house. They approached the property from the parking lot in the back. Damn, he's so accurate. Okay, speculation, did not enter the window. Plant on center of sill is not moved. Okay, I think he's talking about Ethan and Xana's timeline. They were at Sigma Chi. Speculation, killer parked behind the house, approached the property through the tree line, entered sliding door, left it open, committed murders and exited sliding door. One knife, according to coroner's statement, time of murder. Then he gives an approximate, which I think he's off for a reason, because this would have been just too convincing. Time of murder, approximately 3:20 to 3:40. We know that he enters the neighborhood at 3:29. It's pretty damn accurate. According to a car fleeing scene on the camera. Then he talks about Highway 8, approximately 3:45 a.m. Vehicle skid marks upon exit. Please see photos below for more information. And this Idaho murders, white car spotted in footage obtained by police one day after killing section. He says, speculation. I've said from the beginning, that car pulled up to the house. In the killing order section, he says, I'm not giving out any personal information. In the theories thread 3.0, he says, this is true about coroner and medical examiner. Do you have a link for Kaylee's dad stating this? Maybe I missed it. I wish I could see that post, but I can't right now, guys. Maybe I missed it. I thought it was only Xana that was confirmed to have defensive wounds, because he knows who fought back, right? And this, again, is very early on. In the white car is the killer. Here is Y section. He says, I couldn't help the urge to say that. Yeah, the downstairs bathroom was used for taking dumps. The stools were added for LEO after LEO, law enforcement officers, arrived. Then on the December 15, 2022, white 2011 to 2013 Hyundai Elantra update with Captain Roger Lanier section, he says he's making a list. Guys, stand by for a second. I got to get this air conditioning on. It's getting a bit hot. Okay, I'm back. Let's carry on. All right. In the white car is the killer. Here is Y section. He says, hold on, let me make sure my volume's good. Okay, good. It says, yes, I know this. I'm confused as to why you think they went through the window on the dining area. There are items there that wouldn't be like that if someone went through. So again, he's correcting what people are saying because he knows what happened and nobody else did. In the same section, he says, okay, because that's not where the plant is tipped over. They are two different windows. There are items in front of that dining window that appeared untouched. Then in the mother of slain Idaho student speaks out in emotional interview section, he says, so they are upset Ellie isn't sharing enough with them, but also upset coroner shared too much with them. Okay, and then let's talk about the knife. He says, prove to me it's not the shoe print. Doesn't that sound like something he would say? Prove to me. Like, hey, I know it and you don't. All right, and the white car is the killer. Here is Y section. He says, which window are you saying then? The sink window or dining area? Then he says, outside slider handle was taken for evidence. Window screen was next to the bedroom window, next to the bedroom window, not kitchen window. Window entry was also appeared undisturbed. In the theories thread 3.0, he says the coroner said it. And let's talk about the knife. He says they don't do that. And he says, I disagree. That shoe print is the killer's track. Now, recently, you guys saw that there were crime scene photos, and one of those photos is a really good shot of I think it's a size 13 shoe print, shoe or boot print, whatever it is. It looks like a shoe print. I don't know. But here he's saying this is 100% the killer's footprint. In the did the killer want to be known section, he says, no, the killer did it in a discreet fashion. In the let's talk about the knife section, he says, I made my statement and provided a source. In the same section, he says, I do not distribute my personal information. In the killing order section, he says, I will fix that right now. Sorry about your nuts. And he says, I'm not giving out any personal information. In the Ethan Chapin's fraternity gives statement 12/14/2022, he says exactly what I've been saying. In the let's talk about the knife section, he says, okay, if you truly believe that, tip me in. He says, I'm not the Moscow murderer. I've already been tipped in weeks ago. No connection. And then here I can't altogether see what was said. So I'm going to try to. Oh, okay. No, I can't see it. It's just one line, I guess. He says, I keep my Oh, let me tell you the section. Excuse me. White car, Hyundai Elantra, Mega Thread, number 2, 12/14/2022. He cites, I keep my speculation short. The pictures of neighbors' home indicate it would make sense for their camera to be pointed at their driveway with 4+ cars than the street. Dwellers want to protect their property. Then he says, I was joking. And that was in the section, do you think the killer has been interviewed by police or media? In the let's talk about the knife, he says, I'm speculating. I don't have any inside information. There's photos online of marked shoe prints outside the home. Well, dang. For speculating, you sure have been accurate saying, let's see, Murphy was in Kaylee's room, that the sliding glass door was left open, the order, the shoe print, like that there's one perp, there's one knife. I mean, this is a lot of information to be exactly correct on. Oh, and that they were parked outside of the back of the home. Okay, in the white car, Hyundai Elantra Mega Thread, number 2 section, he says, I'm not giving out any personal information. Then in the theories thread 3.0, Mega Thread, he says, no, one single knife. In the let's talk about the knife section, he says, so they just mark random things? So he's probably challenging what somebody said there. Let me zoom out a little bit. Hold on a second. One knife. Hang on 1 second. I think there's one thing. Hold on. I didn't use shoe covers. Okay. So they just mark random things. Then he was kind of being a smart A there. In the general discussion thread, December 13, 2022, he says, thank you. I could see if it was a basement that was underground, but it's not. It's obviously a 3-story. And the one road in means you have to pass the front. Criminals may act irrational, but they're not that stupid. In the killing order section, he says, possible, but I doubt it. And then let's talk about the knife. He says, killer didn't use shoe covers. There's a marked shoe print outside the house. In the killing order section, he says, that's right, thank you. Then he says, first, I'm not the killer. I've been tipped in already, so please don't waste LE time. Also, how does it make me crazy for referencing the coroner's statement and not giving out my personal information? And then he says, an anonymous person, that's all you need to know. The coroner insinuated his theory. I back up her statement. In the pictures, videos section, he says, I've already been tipped in weeks ago. I'm not the killer. Anyway, I say this because footage of the killer or a description would be released if LE had it. It's what they did recently for the car. And he says, in the killing order section, the coroner insinuated the statement. I back up her theory. In the white car is the killer. Here is why section. He says he entered sliding door. In the killing order, he says one murder weapon. Same weapon was used. One knife killed all four. One knife. And then theories thread 3.0, he says agreed. He says and he says this in the white car, Hyundai Elantra Mega thread. He says, I said pulled up to the house in the previous statement. I didn't specify at the time if it was front or back. Yeah, he did. He said it was back. But it seems pretty clear which direction Ellie pointed to. Then he says, 4 homicides is risky. Car near house. Quick getaway. You pull up behind the house. Go through the trees. Enter from the back. Simple. Then he says, tracks or no tracks. I speculate the killer drove up to the house. He says, that's not angled towards the road. It angled towards their driveway. Speculation. And this is in the theories thread 3.0. He says, car pulled up to residence. Killer entered and exited sliding door. The killings took place. And he gives about a 20. He says, so this is the only place that he, I think, is just willy-nilly putting out information. He says from 3:20 to 3:40. So he's given about a 20-minute span. But we know he did pull up at 3:29, and then he circles a number of times, finally going in, I think, at 4:06. So he didn't give a perfectly accurate time, but I think that was for a reason, because everything he said, other than that, is exact. One killer, one fixed blade knife, no injuries. So he's saying he had no injuries. Then he's got a picture of a vehicle in the clouds. And I'm sure that represents something. I just don't know what it is. Let me real quick see what you guys are saying. Okay, is everybody doing good? Are we all following these posts and stuff? Guys, if you're new in this chat, we are going over the various posts made by, it was a person called User Dark 145, which I 100% believe is Bryan Kohberger. Their name on there was Inside Looking. This was on Reddit. Every piece of info has been like super duper accurate. Again, the only thing being slightly off is that timing. But we know he was in there in the house for like, what was it? Was it 13 or 15 minutes, guys? Like 15, 14? I can't, it's something like that. It's 13 to 15 minutes. Anyway, these are very interesting. This is the closest we might ever get to what happened. Okay, back to it. White car, Hyundai Elantra, Mega Thread, number 2. I have to say it's speculation, otherwise Mott's will delete. Well, that is what happened. Eventually he gets kicked out of these threads because he was so difficult to deal with. All right, in the gas station versus body cam vehicle thread, he says, gas station picture, front end is curved, Elantra. LE pic, front end is square, not the same vehicle. Interesting. That's what everyone wants to know. Then he says no connection. I wish I could see exactly what he said preceding that, like what it was about, what the context is. In the white car, Hyundai Elantra Mega Thread number 2 section, he says, yes, it didn't get a great view of it, but enough to figure out the vehicle. Like I've said before, the car pulled up to the house. He says, in the gas station versus body cam vehicle thread, he says, that's not LE near the gas station. In the describe the current mindset of the killer section, he says, thrilled initially after murders, now some anxiety and obsessed with case information. Now, if you guys have heard recently, for the people, you know, the Celebrate experts that have gone through his phone, they said that he was constantly Googling the Idaho murders, trying to, you know, hear every single detail about the investigation that was going on at the time. So I think that's very accurate what he said right there. Obsessed with case information. Then he says, except it was a college party house and DNA is very sensitive. So they're probably talking about the DNA. In the, what do you think about the importance of the Elantra section? He says, all of them. So I wish I had more context on that. We could always Google it, or you could on your end if you're real curious. In the "do you think the killer's been interviewed by police or media yet" section, he says, I think it's both yes and no, whatever that means. In the "white car and gas station footage is not the Elantra" section, he says, person in vehicle is wearing a hoodie with the hood up. Isn't that crazy? That's exactly what he was. That's the outfit that I believe law enforcement is positive that he had available to him and was wearing. Okay, surveillance videos, why not requested sooner section, he says detectives can be lousy. In the 12/12/2022 daily discussion mega thread, he says killer drove to the residence, entered sliding door at and again, this part is off. This is the only thing off. Stabbed victims in their beds, left sliding door at approximately 3:35 and headed east on Highway 8. That is the only thing I can say is totally off. Then he says, on 12/13/2022 daily discussion thread, he says, a meteor hitting and destroying the earth is possible, but it doesn't happen. Use common sense. If a huge fight happened at the fraternity that resulted in the murders, people are not going to be silent about that. In the 12/13/2022 daily discussion thread, he says, the fraternity is not covering up a quadruple homicide. That was a 4chan post. It's false. Then he says in the 12/12 daily discussion section, he says, you want short or long answer? In the general discussion thread, December 13, 2022, says, well, they did stop. That's a fact. Yes, the killer knew. In the based on what you know, do you think there will be arrests before Christmas and why section, he says, that's because TikTokers and Redditors are sending in bogus tips. In the 12/12/2022 daily discussion section, he says, not frat guys. And he says they have. In the based on what you know, do you think there will be an arrest before Christmas section and why section, he says, no arrest before Christmas. The case goes cold, in my opinion. I think he really hoped it would. And the investigation update, 12/12/2022 with Moscow Police Captain Roger Lanier section, he says, too many people to remain silent. 4chan is not a reliable source. He says it's fake. Then he says in the 4chan rumor, because remember it was being talked about that, and at the time it was kind of an interesting possibility, but they were talking about David Loach and all this stuff that was rumored to have been the dynamic that caused the murders. He, in this section where it says 4chan rumor that Sigma Chi frat bros were involved, he says this is all fake. In the investigation update, 12/12/2022 with Moscow Police Captain Roger Lanier section, he says, oh, you again. Then he says link. Then he says no. And again, I tell you, if you're new in here, all you have to do is Google Moscow murders, one word, and then the section that's titled that I read off when I say it's in that section, you put that in there and it'll take you to that section again. And you can read the subsequent comments from this comment down. And it will show that this inside looking person has been deleted. So it'll just say, as their username, it will say deleted instead of inside looking, just because it's gone. They were taken offline on the 30th, which is the same day Bryan Kohberger was arrested. What is the strangest thing about this case to you? What has you interested? Section, he says, probably didn't look like it had good lighting down there. Then in this section, questions I wish the reporters asked in the conference, he says, L.E. said the dog is not a part of the investigation. In the geography of the surrounding area section, it said, yeah, or he says, yeah, it would have taken someone unfamiliar with the area 8 hours to get out of that labyrinth. So saying, you know, they're very familiar with that space. They sectioned off a part of town, collected information, found an outlier. Then he says, let's see, questions I wish the reporters asked in the conference section. He says, dog is irrelevant. And then in the a little knowledge section, he says, look into history. And that is in the persimmons pluit section, I guess. Okay, in the fingers crossed for the best news possible section. He says, tomorrow's update, same information as yesterday's. In the dumb luck section, he says, half of all murders go unsolved. In the, if the person hasn't come forward or made people around them suspicious by now, it's safe to say this person is a psychopath and could kill again section. He says, yet serial killers have had clueless partners. In the let's talk about after the murders section, he says, rush of adrenaline, very excited. In the a little knowledge section, he says, everyone is capable of murder. Being convicted of murder is a separate thing. In the general discussion thread, weekend of December 10, 2022 section, he says, if they did, they would. In the house construction methods section, he says, people have been shot in homes and roommates didn't wake up. So here, I believe this person was trying to say that, you probably shouldn't point the finger at the roommates, that there's been other situations where people were shot in homes and the other residents didn't even know it had happened. So it does happen. Okay, and the some hope theory section says DNA is pretty sensitive. In the Moscow's cameras, there are a lot theory section, he says, apparently not enough to catch a killer. In the they might be clearing people so fast for a reason section, he says, I doubt it. In the they might be clearing people so fast for a reason section, he says they probably don't have the DNA. No person of interest. In the a little knowledge section, says, I disagree with very few people could do this. A lot of people could do this. You just haven't seen the dark side of humans. In the they might be clearing people so fast for a reason section, he says, it has a hilt and the victims were sleeping. I think he might have said hill. I don't know. Okay, and the 4 people in the area wanting to feel a little safer at night, he says, just get a gut. So here's what he says in the let's discuss LE, asking for more information regarding the white vehicle section. He says, they haven't tracked it down, 1. 2, Bolo was issued late. Also, no license plate. Gee, interesting guess. 3, no license plate number. 4, maybe they don't know. Yeah, I agree with you, Gray. Kohberger is 100% the only killer. The facts are really obvious and clear, and he pled guilty. It's just about putting the case all together. 100%. I believe Gray is right. I think it was one killer. All right, in the Kaylee's dad's slip-up theory section, it says, did they get the guy? In the they might be clearing people so fast for a reason section, it says they're cleared. So they're obviously talking about other possible people of interest. And then it says here, perpetrator didn't incur an injury. So he's insisting that the person who did this, again, one person he's stating, the perpetrator didn't incur an injury. Okay, here in the kitchen stools lodged into sliding door, he's saying that he's talking about the handle, that they removed it for evidence. In the Fox News, this is a Fox News news story section of the article, I guess. He says, especially when they are publicly cleared. So what was happening in here, in this part of Reddit, I guess, is this person, this inside looking, who I believe is Bryan Kohberger person, would get really pissed when people would talk about it being more than one killer, when people would say that it was Jack Decor or the hoodie guy. Is like, no, they've all been cleared. You're looking at the wrong suspect. So when everybody else had their eyes on other people, he was like, no, you're wrong. It's none of those guys. And it was one killer and it was one knife. In the where was Ethan found section, information sharing, he says, in bed. Okay, there. Where was Ethan found? Ethan was found in bed. There was a lot of speculation that he was like in the hall, or he was in the bedroom on the floor. It was all these different places. And he said here, this person very early on says he was in bed. Opinions of users section, the sliding door. He says, good find, thank you. Everyone was asleep. It's better to leave it open to make it easier for escape. Bingo. He does talk about Xana having defensive wounds, though. Remember that? Which I know at that time, I think it was public information by then, but I'm not 100% sure. 7th December, daily discussion thread section. He says, outside handle taken off for DNA. Inside handle not. Perp open door and never shut it. Outside handle taken in for DNA evidence. Inside handle not. Perp open door, never closed it. In the sliding door section, opinions of users, he says, outside handle removed for DNA, but not inside. He says it again. Not close it and left with it open. He says, did perp open door, not close it and left with it open? Question mark. Well, gee, good guess. Wow. In the same section, he says, would this mean entry was slider? Duh, you already said it, bud. Perp didn't close it when he entered, so he just took off with it still open. No marks on inside handle then. And he says, why are outside handles different? So these are some pictures. It's kind of hard. I think this is from some of the Fox News video, but you know, guys, I've always wondered, and it's going to sound a little crazy to some, but I've always wondered if he did have trail cams that were outside in different places so he could track that residence and what was going on outside of it. So when I saw these pictures first, I did kind of wonder, you know, was this from his secret squirrel camera or what? All right. I don't have timestamps, but here is the full picture. He says he's going back to the slider. I don't have timestamps, but here's the full picture. Again, slider. That's the sliding door. Look real close. Look real close. He's looking at the red tape. Paying close attention to that handle. Body cam footage section, he says, definitely wasn't murdering when they just cut off the lights. And then the murders happened after this. And that's in the body cam footage information Moscow murder section. In the anyone else still think it's the X section, he says, no, LOL. The perp is not on the list, LOL. And then he says, so why have a cleared list? And then he says, so why have a list then? Then he says, so that, that's not how it works. See cleared list. In the, has anyone considered that maybe, just maybe, the LE are publicly clearing these individuals out because they suspect one of them, but want to make them feel like they are off the hook? Section, he says, 100%. Then, again, he calls this the exit. So it's the entry and the exit. In the have they already solved this case, question mark theory section, he says no suspect at this time. In the past comments regarding most updated police focus made on 11/21, do they know something or are they just a troll section? He says, okay, I'm done with you. Then he says, prove it. Sounds like somebody would say. Then he says, yeah, I do. And then he says, nothing happened at Sigma Chi. He said, I never insisted something happened there. I was stating on the timeline, Ethan and Xana were at Sigma Chi. That's it. I never said something went down there. And then he says, yeah, what about that? This is wrong. He says, too many witnesses if something went down at Sigma Chi. In the video on TikTok about Jack Showalter and his family's connections section, he says, not Jack Showalter. In the general discussion thread, December 6, 2022 section, he says, second. So whatever that pertains to. Again, you can research it if you want to. In the drone footage from day one of investigation section, he says, does that look like a bedroom to you? He's getting a little fresh with people here. In the how to speculate correctly section, he says, it's Reddit, a bunch of anonymous people on the internet. Everything is speculation. In the drone footage from day one of investigation section, he says, yes, for the window next to it. Is it odd that the girls only called the ex-boyfriend but didn't send any text section? He says, agreed, ex-boyfriend is not involved. In the Jack Showalter not a suspect section, he says, agreed, Jack Showalter is innocent. Then he's paying close attention to this area. I'm trying to remember, guys, is that where the handprint was found or no? I know there's a handprint that I saw. I just don't recall if it was that location or not. Hey, Crime Stories Obsessed. It's great to see you. Thanks for being here. She says, Steve Goncalves said to me that he felt Bill Thompson was protecting the university before the victims. I have felt that way also, honestly. Okay, I'll carry on. Anyway, thanks everybody for being in here. I'm glad we get to go over this finally, especially now that we have more concrete information. As you can see, the only thing so far that's off is that time frame and potentially the Highway 8. But again, he could have been making sure a couple things are off so that it's not a dead giveaway. Because, I mean, everything else was extremely right on and crazy. All right. On the 6th December daily discussion thread, it says, I promise you that you are incorrect. So he is saying like, hey, you're wrong. I know, and you don't know. In the people who understand knives, please explain section, he says, am I who? So people were calling him out as the murderer, and he was, I think, trying to run from that a bit. In the 6th December daily discussion thread, he says, I am correct. This sounds like his personality to me so much. In the we just don't know section, he says, they clearly stated it. In the people who understand knives, please explain section, he says, this is true. They don't have the weapon. In the, I guess this is just a Reddit section on Moscow murders, it says he has ladders. He could have gone onto the 3rd floor from outside. So now he's really throwing some stuff out. In the suspect's wound section, because design prevents it, he says, watch how fast someone can get shanked in prison. I'm sure there are videos out there. Remember I was telling you about the videos I was seeing all the time? Really quick stabbings that were so disturbing. I'd never seen anything like it before. And I've told the story before of one in particular where a wife is engaged in relations with somebody. And the husband comes in and starts stabbing her. And it is fast, it's furious. And she's gone in like 20 seconds or something. Like it's quick. It was so disturbing. I'll never get it out of my mind. And that was put in that incel haven, I should say, of 4chan. And I know a lot of people, oh, it wasn't on 4chan. No, that's where incels congregate. Are you kidding me? I think he was on there. He might have even planted the David Loach thread just to get people talking, in my opinion. That's where the gnome picture was posted. That's where the coordinates were posted. That is where a lot of stuff, actually 2 different sets of coordinates were posted, which if Gray's in here, I want to tell him. Gray, are you still in here? I want to tell you about something. Okay, I think he is. Gray, there's something really important. There's 2 sets of coordinates that were posted November 19th and November 20th. They are just in the area, like very close to the area where people have been speculating that he buried stuff. It seems like these locations are pretty close to each other. It could even be as little as 5 to 6 feet. So I would like somebody eventually to go out there and see if there's something there. I called law enforcement multiple times telling them, look, this could be your place. Because these coordinates were being posted on 4chan so early on before the public had even adopted that much of an interest in the case. So I felt they were relevant, and I've held on to them for a long time. I hope somebody that hears this really looks into it. If I lived in that state, I would. I just don't. Anyway, we'll get back to it. All right. TikTok theory section. He says, Ellie said, nobody is completely cleared. Where does it say that? And then they're speculating in this discussion that somebody is guilty. And he says, he's innocent, though. In the suspect's wounds section, it says, a knife doesn't jam and the victims were asleep. And he does acknowledge that Xana, had defensive wounds, by the way. And then here it says it's designed for it. It's some knife they're talking about. All right. Kaylee's parents sign waivers. So this is the section, guys. Kaylee's parents signed waivers for PD to investigate something male related. Remember, I talked about this at the very beginning of the live stream. He says, it's not standard practice by LE. Must be important. There is some sort of importance there. Now, remember, if you guys have been going through the docs, there was something sent to, I think it was Maddie's sorority. And it was kind of cryptic and bizarre. I still wonder if that was part of this, what was being investigated, that there were multiple male-related things. It also goes back to that original map that I talked about, where one of the sites of interest was the U.S. Postal Service. And, if you're curious about any of the stuff, I've got it on my December 4th, 2022 video. You can go back and you can see I was finding anagrams and all sorts of weird stuff. A lot of it has turned out to be very important. Okay. In the suspect's wounds section or thread, it says, prove to me they did get an injury. In the best publicly available timeline, he says, no connection. In the I have a tiny piece of information on the investigation section, he says, so they tell the public someone is innocent knowing they just killed 4 people and let that person roam around in society? That makes 0 sense. In going to preface this with Nancy Grace as a grifter, so take this with a grain of salt, link to the video and comments section, he says, and here I think he's diverting again because he said in the past it was a sliding door. But he says window was entry, sliding door was the exit. In the first several pages, remember, guys, he said sliding door was the entry and the exit, and that it was left open. So I think he was trying to misdirect a bit here. In the I have a tiny piece of information on the investigation section, he says they repeatedly tell the public that. Okay, in the 6 December daily discussion thread, he said, no, he wouldn't. He's not involved. So they're talking about somebody who people were pointing the finger at. In the I have a tiny piece of information section, he says, Ellie has no suspect at this time. Yep, no suspect at this time. And then he says, where was all these people when I was getting downvoted and hated for saying this? And any new thoughts on if we know the killer or not section, he says, we haven't heard of. And then in the series question for Reddit, Ellie, and lawyers section, he says, no suspect at this time for real. In the best publicly available timeline section, he says, no connection. In the News Nation Banfield Live Now hoodie guy discussion, did Ellie clear individuals too fast section? He says cleared, and then nope. And then no suspect at this time. There's your answer. In the has anyone considered that maybe, just maybe, the LE are publicly clearing these individuals section, he says, no, they are cleared. So many people were under the light of suspicion. And this person is definitively saying, no, they were cleared. It's not them. It was one killer. It was one knife. The door was left open. They parked behind the house. The shoe print is right there. There are skid marks right there, right in front of the house. Like this is all very relevant, very precise, very accurate information. All right, some quick information regarding the phrase person X has been cleared by LE section. It says, check City of Moscow PD King Road homicides website for information. In the saw this and had to share thoughts section, he says, why a whole college essay on it? In the general question section, it says no. A new update from local media reports Xana and Ethan were likely at frat house the whole time. And then this person says, I've been saying that from the start. In the physical evidence from the scene section, he says, number of evidence doesn't matter. It's quality of evidence. In the Xana and Ethan whereabouts section, it says somewhere in Sigma Chi. In the some quick information regarding the phrase person X has been cleared by LE section, he says it's accurate. People on cleared list are not involved. In the grub truck video, he is not involved. Stating again with certainty, he is not involved. In the at what point should we worry section, he says the long haul has started. In the, let me see, what page am I on? Okay, good. In the some quick information regarding the phrase person X has been cleared section, it says nobody on that list is involved. In the what did you guys take from the dad's comments about the steps section, it says isn't it obvious? In the News Nation Banfield Live Now Hoodie Guy discussion section, he says Jack Showalter is cleared. Cleared is cleared. They have nothing to do with it. In the suspect's wound section, it says no injuries. In the Kaylee's parents signed waivers for PD to investigate something male related. Look at what he says right here. More here than you think. To me, that's a dead giveaway. Something in the mail happened. Maybe one day we're going to know more, but it is interesting. More here than you think. So it is completely important. And guys, if you ever hear more about the quote mail related incident, please, if I haven't talked about it or something, let me know just in case I miss it, because I've always wanted to know what this was all about. Just going back to that map and everything. It's so weird. Okay, in the Hoodie Guy and the driver speculation by user section, it says they are not involved in the murders. In the some interesting reports from the recent Moscow police log section, it says not connected. By the way, you know what? Real quick, I need to acknowledge that I believe it was back here. I saw a super chat a while back, and I think it was from Skyby. Skyby, if you're still in here, thank you so much for that. I really super appreciate it. Any help to my channel, guys, it keeps me here and motivated and able to deliver more information. I know I've taken time off, but I want to be full-time again. I am really trying. And right now the algorithm it's punishing me, and it's rightfully so. I can't complain. I haven't been around much, but I'm trying, and I'm going to keep trying to get, back into this because I do enjoy it a lot. And I like digging into the information with you guys. Thanks, Skyby, so much for thinking of me. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Sparky. This is fascinating what she's reading. Thank you. I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad you're getting something out of it. I think it's interesting too. Definitely worth talking about, especially with that clip I played earlier where the Celebrate experts are acknowledging that he was on Reddit and that on December 30th, he was taken off. He was operating, I think, from multiple accounts on there, guys. I do believe. Mar R, thank you so much for your super chat. Thank you so much for the $5. You have no idea how much it means to me. You're so sweet. Thank you for always showing up for me also. It means the world. Thanks, Sparky. Thank you for, she said, thanks for your hard work. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, we'll get back to it. We have a little bit to go. Not much, though. Not too much. All right, Hoodie Guy and the driver. Let's see. Am I at that section? I think I am. Okay, after the more here than you think about the mail. Hoodie Guy and the driver section, he says they are not involved in the murders. Then in the some interesting reports from recent Moscow police log section, it says not connected. In the notes from Brian Enton's News Nation special report aired 12/4 section, he says, thought this was obvious. In the Xana and Ethan whereabouts section, he says Sigma Chi. So some of this, this kind of stuff is a little bit redundant, but nevertheless, it's still pretty interesting. All right. So in the some quick information regarding the phrase person X has been cleared by LE section, he says cleared is cleared. He's sick of people pointing the finger at people who didn't do it. In the Kaylee's dad thinks hoodie guy was cleared too soon section, he says he has nothing to do with it. In the 12/2/2022 daily discussion thread, he says one killer, one knife. In the best publicly available timeline, says, section, he says, until there is evidence to say elsewhere, they were at Sigma Chi. He says, I can only go off details provided by investigators. Real quick, in case you're new in here, I want to show you guys, because I realized not everybody was in here when I started the stream. Take a look. Let me open my camera up. Hold on. Take a look at Bryan, or Inside Looking's profile, okay? Let me do a zoom on his nose. Sure looks like the hump in Bryan's nose, doesn't it? Isn't that some SH? Pretty crazy, huh? The eyebrow. And then you compare that to that nose. That's a damn dead ringer, isn't it? Pretty crazy. Okay. In the general question section, it says no point. It means nothing. It's speculation. In the moderators, I didn't say a name section, it says no connection again. He says that a lot through here. And says not connected again in the general question section. In the best publicly available timeline section, he says it doesn't say they were anywhere else. I think talking about Xana and Ethan again. In the roommate relations, I haven't seen this mentioned anywhere section. It says roommates cleared, not involved in homicides. In the moderators, I didn't say a name section. He says no connection. All right. He makes a note of this. Let me see if I can read it. It's kind of a little bit small. Let me see. This is in the best publicly available timeline section. It says, investigators have determined that Ethan Chapin and Xana Kernodle were seen Sigma Chi House on University of Idaho campus, 735 Nez Perce. So this is just information, as they were getting it, as law enforcement was getting it, they were releasing it to the public, but yet a lot of people were still disputing that the facts were the facts. In the theories thread 2.0 section, says LE not lying to public. In the general question section, it says speculation, and then no, they were cleared today by LE. In the 12/2/2022 daily discussion section, it says last sentence, please read. In the best publicly available timeline section, it says City of Moscow PD King Road Homicides website does not mention Ethan Xana leaving Sigma Chi. It says they went there and returned home at approximately 1:45. In the 12/2/2022 daily discussion section, it says Latah County Coroner Kathy Mabbitt said the manner of death was a stabbing for all four individuals. The cause of death was murder, according to Mabbitt. Mabbitt's incident on campus is now being prosecuted. Man, people spread crazy about. In that section, he says, LE already said there was no connection to this. And then again states that James Fry said it. Okay, going back to what happened. And this is very early on. The section is called, was he inside the whole time? And he says he pulled right up to the house. A lot of people speculated that he was waiting in the house for quite a while. Well, he says he pulled right up to the house and stated in previous posts that he came in through the back. In the valid point, no one can be absolutely ruled out section, he says, I don't buy into this one bit. I trust the information LE is putting out there. In the do you think law enforcement is being honest in their answers section, he says, of course, they're going to know more than the public. They are investigating it. Guys, we're getting close to being done. That's great. In the 911 call was for unresponsive female on second floor section. He says, this is for Moscow PD. Why do we not trust them as a source of information? In the Imagining the Killer's Night section, he says, yeah, he took a nice, long, hot shower in the residence he murdered 4 people in and even brought his own soap. Can you imagine if that might have actually been the case? Because remember, they're saying there was not one bit of a trail that was left behind. But he wouldn't have had time to do that. I mean, he really wouldn't have. And I'm sure that they checked the shower. Of course they did. But that is kind of interesting to imagine, right? No DNA in the car. No blood. He really covered his bases. Okay, and the LE does not know anything. Citizens need to be informed section. He says the public is misleading themselves. In the 911 call was for unresponsive female on second floor section. He says, you're looking too far into it. They're not using word games here. I'm not sure what to make of that clip. Snell corrects his statement, and then it appears the video skips forward. I'd like to watch the full interview if you have it or someone could share it. Then he says, I cite official sources, not rumors. Anyways, have a good day, buddy. He says, oh, you're right. I should trust Facebook groups, Twitter, Reddit, and all the rumor mills. Get out of here. Then he says, no, it's not been contradictory. People are just choosing to believe these unverified sources and claims over what LE has told us. Then he says, that is from the Moscow City Police. Are you out of your mind? And he says again here, they're not playing word games. Then he says, I literally posted the quote above. You can also check their website. He says, so a Facebook group is better source than law enforcement? And then, so why are you saying they were running outside calling 911 when LE states the call was from inside the residence? Then he says, LE said the call was made inside the home. And then he cites exactly what was stated. And that is, on November 13th at 11:58, a 911 call requested aid for an unconscious person. The call originated from inside the residence on one of the surviving roommate's cell phone. Moscow Police Department responded to the residence and found that 4 victims on the 2nd and 3rd floors. Moscow PD. Okay, guys, we've got 3 little pages to go. Okay, again, very small writing, can't see it. It says, who is not believed to be involved? Any individual at the residence when 911 was called. What he's stating here is Dylan wasn't in on it. Kaylee wasn't, or Bethany was not in on it. Nobody in the home was in on it. Okay, in the tweet from Brian Enton section, he says, it's good to see others in this group are calling out BS from others. I've been doing the same. In the how is this so confusing section, he says, hence, why I use official sources only. A lot of unverified claims are spreading that contradict what Ellie has told us. But yet, he boldly states that the person who did these murders came in through the slider and left it open. Right? He wasn't using verified sources because we didn't even know that information. We didn't know that the sliding door was left open until the crime scene photos. We know about the front door, but not the slider. Hate to repeat myself, but for those that might be new in here, you know. All right. In the 11/29/2022 daily discussion post section, he says, it could be that the killer was satisfied with the numbers. Some hit a number and just stop. Donna said the exact same thing. She said he was satisfied with the number. Okay, and the Ellie acknowledges concern that killers may show up at vigils tomorrow section. He says use official sources only. And the update from Brian Enton, no persons of interest at this time section, he says, people have been interpreting it many different ways, though, or chose not to believe it. In the general discussion thread, Monday, November 28th section, he says, roommates have been cleared. In the saw on YouTube section, he says, Ellie said the call was made from inside the home. And then it's just a repeat of what we already know. In the update from Bryan into known person of interest at this time section, he says, Ellie has said this from the start. He says it twice. Based on everything you currently know about the case, what do you believe the killer's relationship was to the victims? And then he says, done by someone they know. So that makes me wonder, because remember in the preceding post that we went over, he talks about having small interaction with some of the friends. And that's why Xana and Maddie, he's saying, were the intended victims. Really makes me wonder. I know they couldn't find a connection, but he also was able to dump so much of his info, delete it. I mean, so much they didn't have too much on him. As much as I hate to admit that, they didn't. It could have been a difficult trial. In some ways, it's probably good that the plea happened, you know? Okay, in the how long does it take to solve a homicide in the real world section, he says, we don't currently have a suspect, which he's quoting ISP Communications Director Snell during Fox News interview, November 27, 2022. Again, says, we don't currently have a suspect, same thing. Then says, it's not verified that the doors were locked. Roommates have been cleared. Ellie recently said they have no suspect at this time. It's really interesting because as time went on, he got a lot more pushy with his opinion about the murders and how he thinks it happened and what went down that night. But in the beginning, these are the very early posts we're looking at here. These are the late November posts, and he's being very careful, I think, about what he says here. He's keeping it real brief, not describing much detail, you know? In the all four could have been target section, he says, an interviewer asked Snell if the dog was still a part of the investigation. As Snell looked flabbergasted. That was even a question. I still think it's very interesting that this person says that the dog was in Kaylee's room, which we now know is exactly what happened. He says right here, he drove right up to the house. First major leak in case, says use official sources only. Okay. It was never verified by official sources that the doors were locked. That's hearsay. So he's saying now that the doors were not locked. That's not been confirmed. And that was in the suspect person of interest area. In the same area, again, he's cleared, no connection. In the who else thinks the police have nothing section, he says they don't. No suspect at this time, according to LE. In the micro theory section, he says, X who Kaylee made phone calls to has been cleared. The dog theory section, he states, no suspect at this time. And then again, in the general discussion thread, no suspect at this time. And then killer's exit route, he says, in that section, he says, agreed. Ellie said yesterday, no suspect at this time. I bet Ellie is banking on the DNA, which isn't as easy as people think. Cases go cold otherwise. In the controversial opinion roommate involvement section, he says, LMFAO, laughing my blank off. And then says, roommates are not involved. How many times does Ellie have to say this? And then again says the same thing he said before. Sometimes killers are just satisfied by the number of people they killed. In the looking at the request for videos in the geographical region section, he says this group should have found it earlier. Hold on. Should have found it earlier. Does it say? It's much closer. Okay, hold on. Let me read that whole thing because this could be important. In the section that says, looking at the request for videos in the geographical region indicated by LE, how they narrow this region down, and their north boundary is much closer to the house than the south one. Makes me think they have more info on how the killer left than we know. That's the name of the section. He says, this group Should have found it earlier. Interesting. Okay, hold on, guys. I have to plug this in real fast. We're just about through it, thank God. All right. Now he pays close attention to this tree and this is in the section, FBI agents and investigators returned to the house Friday and are seen checking eye line from third floor window towards apartments across the way. That's the section. Okay, and then he's talking about some video. Okay, he's paying special attention to, I think that is Maddie's. I think that's Maddie's window. Maybe not. I don't see the boots. Maybe. I don't know, guys. I can't see that well. Maybe that's Kaylee's. I think that might be Kaylee's. Anyway, there's photos kind of zeroing in on the investigator, the forensic people looking at, the stuff in these rooms and stuff. Okay, in the FBI agents and investigators returned the house Friday section, it says a second person looking in that direction. Huh, okay. Good, we're like one page to go. In the why isn't reward money being offered section, he says exactly, got to be able to convince a jury that this is the perpetrator without a doubt. Oh my gosh, this is directly about autistic people. This is the section. It's called Person Who Followed the Victims and Knife Accounts. He says a lot of autistic people can and do drive. That's interesting because we now know that he's supposedly autistic. In the I wonder if the knife could still be inside the home section, he says the killer took it with them. End of story. Okay, this is, I think is this the final post? I think this is the final post. In the speculation section, he says the killer is out there right now. Anyone making statements is going to want to remain anonymous. Guys, we did it. We went through them. I think that is a lot to conquer because that was a lot of pages. As you can see, the first several pages were far more insightful than the last probably 10 or 15. But nevertheless, it was pretty interesting. I still believe that was 100% Bryan, especially the picture and the nose and when you view the face real closely, and then you have the clues of the 1122. That's the same numbers that are on the house. Then you've got just multiple facets of this, right? You've got the parking in the back, leaving the slider door open, the shoe print. Like there's so many things that now we know without a doubt are 100% the case based on the crime scene photos. So I think it's pretty wild. Okay, what did I miss, Mara? Let's see. I got to go back and look at some of these comments. Okay, there we go. Please don't post misinformation. Okay, I'm trying to view what you guys are talking about a little bit, so I'm not in the dark completely. I think he may have. I agree with you, Susan, if you're still in here. I think he may have pled guilty because he is. I agree with you. I think he is too. Good point, Mar. All the coincidences add up. Misinformation 567 says the courts didn't even consider his alibi an alibi. No, they didn't. For being convicted, unlike Rick Allen, our great Constitution went to die in that case. Yeah, I know. I've had a lot of opinions about that case also. Lewis. That's probably the only case so far that I've kind of questioned a little bit. Everything else has been pretty clear for me. And maybe it's his wife. She seems very sincere, a very decent person. I don't know. I don't want to cause division in the chat by even going over it. But yeah, I have strong feelings about that case. I do. Yeah. I think that there was probably not enough at all. Yeah, the number thing, I don't know. Are you talking about the Idaho murders and this inside looking account? The 1122? That's what I think you might be talking about, but I don't know. He's beyond autistic. Yeah, for sure. Oh, hey, Maxine. Good to see you. She says, oh, man, I just saw this. I'm going to have to listen to the whole thing after. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Maxine, for dropping in. Good to see you. Yeah, Lucy Meyer says, yes, the 1122. It is interesting. And you know what? Hold on a second. Let me grab my phone. I'm going to show you guys once more something important. Hold on. Just one second. Again, you look at that face. That bump is in the exact same space on his nose that is on Bryan Kohberger's nose. And this was the profile that was responding to all those threads that I just read. You can't tell me that's not Bryan, man. Look at that. That's Bryan. Yeah, the schnoz. The schnoz. I believe so. I do. Okay, guys, I've kept you here so long. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sticking around. Mar, as usual, thank you for being a wonderful mod and always showing up for me. Please do me a favor. Hit the like button. I can't do it without you guys. If you want me to be regular on YouTube, I just need you to help me with the like button. That's it. And I'll be here. I'll show up. Yeah, Lewis says definitely BK. I think so too. I do. And those details, so many, I mean, lots of details to stack up and be completely accurate. Pretty early on. Yeah, there's something to it. All right, guys, I'll let you go. Let me know if you come across any more about the mailed stuff. Remember, I was talking about that a while back. What was sent to the sorority? I want to go over that soon. I still want to know what was sent to Kaylee Goncalves' mom and dad at their home. That's very interesting. Oh, me too, Sparky. Sparky says, you bet. Glad you showed back up on my For You page. I'm so glad too. Thank you. Thank you for being here, guys. Lots of love to you and yours. And again, thank you for the super chats. Thank you for showing up for me. And please, as Mar says, hit the like. Thanks, guys. Have a wonderful weekend. Take care. Bye.